Part 1. Karma. Exposing the secret affair behind my cheating wife's happy 2-year marriage. My name is Victor. I met Jenny right after college, and from our first conversation at a crowded campus bar, it felt easy, almost automatic. We dated for 5 years, got engaged during year 6, and walked down the aisle in year 7. By the time we exchanged rings, I thought I knew every crease in her smile and every shape her moods could take. For the first 2 years of marriage, we played our plan by the book. We both wanted children, but only after we felt solid financially. She worked as a project coordinator at a tech firm that paid generous bonuses, and I was climbing the ladder in a regional architecture office. Friday nights were takeout on the couch. Saturdays were errands and a movie. Sundays were coffee in bed before we answered emails for the week ahead. It was stable, maybe even routine, but it was ours, and I was proud of it. At the start of year 3, we agreed it was time to try for a baby. We downloaded calendar apps, cut back on happy hours, and talked in hopeful tones about nurseries and preschool districts. I bought a little pair of white baby sneakers and kept them on my desk as motivation. Life felt like it was moving in the right direction, and I walked around with a private grin. Looking back, I can see the cracks that were forming cracks that should have been obvious. Jenny started holding the phone a little closer to her body when she scrolled. If I asked who she was texting, she gave quick one-word answers and slipped the phone under a pillow. I told myself she deserved privacy. After all, I hated feeling monitored too. Once or twice, she missed her train home and called from the office saying she would finish a presentation with coworkers over late pizza. I believed her. Trust, I thought, is the oxygen of marriage. One Thursday, she walked through the door past midnight. The Netflix screensaver was bouncing around the TV, and I had drifted off. Her keys hit the table so quietly, it woke me. "Everything okay?" I asked, rubbing my eyes. "Sorry, the client call pushed everything back," she whispered while slipping off her shoes. "At this hour, yeah, time zone mess. They're in Singapore." She headed to the bathroom before I could respond. That was the first jolt that lingered long enough to keep me awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was being paranoid. Over the next month, the late nights multiplied. When I suggested she scale back, Jenny got touchy. "It's crunch season," she snapped. She began turning her phone face down on the kitchen counter, something she had never done. I tried to tamp down the suspicion, but dread pooled in my stomach each evening when she texted that she would be late again. One Saturday, she claimed she had a team-building retreat. My gut said follow her, but I hated the idea of spying. Instead, I spent the day mowing the yard and replaying every moment in our history, searching for moments when her smile might have been a lie. By evening, my nerves were shot. She breezed in after midnight, smelling of perfume that was not hers. I asked whose scent that was. She said it must have rubbed off from a coworker's hug. I forced a smile, pretended to believe, and lay awake until dawn. A week later came the night that detonated our life. Jenny texted that she would stay at the office to meet a deadline. Something snapped in me. I tried to watch a game, but my eyes kept sliding toward the digital clock. At 10, I walked into our bedroom and saw her iPad glowing on the nightstand. I picked it up, hands shaking. Her passcode had never changed. Messages filled the screen. The contact name was Damien. They bantered about restaurant reservations, inside jokes, and hotel rooms. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one message read. My pulse hammered so loudly I could barely see the words. Screenshots stacked up as I scrolled, unable to stop. There was no room for denial. She was with him that very moment, not at her desk, but in his arms. I waited in the dark living room, phone in my lap. Minutes crawled like hours till the front door clicked. Jenny stepped in, humming keys jingling. I flipped on the lamp. She froze. "Victor, you scared me." I held up the iPad. "Explain." Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, closed it, then burst into sobs so violent her shoulders shook. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I never wanted to hurt you. Wanted to or not, you did." I kept my voice level, though my heart felt like shattered glass. She fell to her knees, grabbing my hand. Tears smeared her mascara across her cheeks. "It was a mistake. We can fix this. Let's do therapy." "A mistake is backing into a pole at the grocery lot," I said. This was a decision repeated, planned, hidden. She pleaded for mercy. I told her I wanted a divorce. Her wail sounded animal, raw terror mixed with regret. She begged me to sleep on it, to think of the life we had built. I shook my head once, slow and final. Trust is a single pane of glass. Once cracked, it never returns to perfect clarity. The next morning, I called a lawyer, while Jenny sat at the kitchen island, eyes swollen. We had signed a prenuptial agreement before marriage, something both families insisted on. Because she was the one who breached marital fidelity, I retained the house, the retirement accounts, and the bulk of savings. The legal process moved with cold efficiency, like a saw through bone. In the weeks that followed, Jenny launched every attempt to rewrite the ending. She left flowers on the porch, slipped apology letters under the door, bombarded my voicemail. She even approached my closest friend Mark to lobby on her behalf. Mark told her no and warned me she was desperate. Watching her flail only deepened my resolve. It confirmed what I already knew: she would twist any angle to get what she wanted. On the day the court stamped the decree, the clerk slid the papers across the counter and said, "That's all." 2 words, and a rubber seal erased 7 years. I walked to my car and sat in silence, decree resting on the passenger seat like a tombstone. I expected to feel relief. Instead, I felt numb, as if the air had left the world. The marriage was dead, but the pain was very much alive. I changed my phone number, moved into a small loft across town, and canceled every streaming account we once shared. I boxed the photos, the wedding album, even the tiny baby sneakers, and stored them in the attic of my sister's house. Jenny texted from random numbers now and then. I blocked each one. When she showed up at my office lobby, I told security to escort her out. Friends invited me to bars, to backyard cookouts, to road trips. I went through the motions, smiling at jokes, clinking glasses, but inside I felt hollow. Nights stretched long. The apartment echoed because I had no furniture besides a mattress, a desk, and a thrift store couch. I would fall asleep with the TV on, just to hear another voice in the room. One afternoon, my coworker Maya suggested therapy. I shrugged it off, but that evening I found myself scrolling directories of counselors. I booked an appointment for the following Tuesday. In the therapist's office, a quiet room with gray walls and a single plant, I admitted for the first time that Jenny's affair was not the only wound. It had ripped open old scars from childhood times when trust had felt risky. Session by session, the numbness cracked and emotions spilled out, messy but real. I began to understand that healing did not mean erasing the past, but facing it without flinching. By month 6 post-divorce, I stopped checking my phone for phantom apologies. The ache dulled. I returned to the gym, lifted heavier each week, and cooked proper meals instead of microwave noodles. I caught myself laughing without forcing it. Then, exactly 1 year after the night, I discovered the messages I drove by the old house. A for sale sign stood in the yard, bright red against the grass. The curtains I once helped Jenny pick were gone. For a moment, sorrow washed over me, not for her, but for the life we failed to protect. I drove on, windows down, letting the wind carry the memory away. That is where this first part of the story ends, with the marriage buried and the wound still fresh, but no longer bleeding out. I had no idea then that the real turbulence was yet to come, that Jenny would re-enter my orbit in a way I never expected. At the time, I thought the worst was behind me. The second year after the divorce began with a single resolution: build a life that belonged only to me. I rented a brighter apartment closer to the Riverwalk, bought a proper sofa, and let myself learn small pleasures again. Saturday mornings meant black coffee on the balcony while runners passed below. Tuesday nights were reserved for therapy, still the anchor that kept me steady. My therapist, Dr. Hua, kept drawing me back to one vital point. Betrayal had cracked the foundation I shared with Jenny, but it did not define every plank in the structure of my life. If I kept framing my identity around what she did, the marriage would own my future as completely as it had poisoned my past. I wrote that sentence on a card and taped it to the bathroom mirror. Some mornings I believed it, others I only stared. But reading the words became a ritual. Work improved because focus returned. Deadlines I once dreaded felt manageable. I signed up for a half marathon and trained through icy dawns, pounding pavement to clear static from my head. By spring, I finished the race in an average time, but crossing that line felt like proof that setbacks did not have to pin me forever. Friends noticed the change and started inviting me to social things that went beyond bars. Emma from accounting held a game night, and to my surprise, I laughed, really laughed, when a teammate drew a ridiculous sketch of a giraffe on roller skates. Mark coaxed me onto a hiking trip where we camped beside a lake, so still it looked fake. I woke early, stepped out of the tent, and let quiet bleed into my bones. Peace felt possible. Dating remained tricky. I dipped a toe into apps, chatted with a few people, went on 3 stiff dinners, then paused the account. My therapist said healing is not a straight line, and she was right. I was not lonely, just cautious. That summer, I passed the old house again and saw a young couple unloading furniture. They waved as if I were a neighbor. I waved back, surprised by the absence of pain. I truly wished them well. The chapter felt closed. Life kept moving. Then came the grocery store. It was late on a Wednesday. I ducked in for eggs and oat milk, headphones on. Near the produce section, I almost collided with Sophie and Travis, Jenny's parents. We locked eyes before I could retreat. Sophie's face crumpled. She stepped forward, gripping my arm like a lifeline. Victor, thank goodness. Jenny has been in a terrible accident, she said. Her voice shook. She is in intensive care, critical condition. Please, would you visit her? Shock rippled through me, but sympathy did not follow. My history with Jenny came back in a harsh flash. All I felt was distance. I pulled my arm free and answered with the plain truth. Jenny is not my responsibility anymore. Sophie's eyes shimmered. Travis cleared his throat, looking everywhere but at me. Sophie pleaded for compassion and forgiveness. Travis finally spoke, calm but firm. Everyone makes mistakes, son. Maybe this is a chance to find peace. The words landed like a slap. Anger flared hot and swift. I replied in a voice so level it surprised even me. She can lie in that hospital bed for all I care. She cheated, she lied, and you defended her. That is on her, not me. Sophie sobbed. I turned on my heel and left my basket in the aisle. The automatic doors swished behind me, and I sucked in a lungful of parking lot air, pulse racing, guilt nowhere to be found. Thank you for listening to today's stories. Part 2 will be updated soon. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.